in the world, we have those who are meticulously dividing people into communities, social classes, and fan bases, just to get you to identify with something. The devil is getting you to identify with someone or something, or as someone or something. Behind the scenes, the things that the Bible said was coming true is meticulously and craftily unfolding before our eyes.
As we celebrate Pride and the progress we've made over these past years, there's still work to be done. So to those of you out there who are still working against equal rights, we have a message for you.
You think we're sinful? You fight against our rights. You say we all lead lives you can't respect. But you're just frightened. You think that we'll corrupt your kids if our agenda goes unchecked. Funny, just this once, you're correct. We'll convert your children. Happens bit by bit, quietly and subtly, and you will barely notice it. You can keep them from disco, warn about San Francisco, make him wear pleated pants, we don't care. We'll convert your children, we'll make them tolerant and fair. We're coming for them, we're coming for your children.
Ask the Lord to open the eyes, enlighten the eyes of your understanding, give you understanding. He said, I don't care what you get, whatever you get, behind whatever you get, let there be an understanding. If you get disciplined by Him, let there be an understanding as to why you got disciplined. If you got a blessing, understand the blessing came from where. Let there be an understanding. He said, with all you're getting, get an understanding.
So apparently I've been living under a rock for the past few years because there's a thing called a pedophilia pride flag. Now this flag doesn't come as a surprise to me at all because I halfway expected pedophilia to be legalized many years ago because Democrats would stoop so low to be inclusive to everybody. So this right here is the pedo flag. The technical term of this flag is MAP, which stands for Minor Attracted Persons. Now the fact that this flag even exists is disgusting in itself, but once I actually look at this flag and look at the colors, it disgusts me even more. So here's a breakdown of what the colors mean on the flag. The top two stripes are blue to represent attraction to young boys. The bottom two stripes are pink to represent attraction to young girls. The inner yellow stripes are to represent childhood and general attraction to minors regardless of their gender. And the middle stripe is white to represent innocence and unwillingness to offend.
Good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson Tonight. Happy Friday. In your head, you always imagine the revolution when it starts will start with tanks and gunfire, with chaos and soldiers in the street. You'll know when it comes. But it never does. Instead, the really big changes to American life, the profound ones that affect all of us forever, those changes almost always begin quietly with gentle pleas for tolerance. We'd like to do things a little differently, they tell you. We'd like to make a change to some custom or belief that people have been attached to for the last few thousand years. But don't be alarmed. It's not a big deal. You don't even need to participate. All we ask is that you let us live the way we want to live. That's always the pitch. And of course, you always agree to it. Why wouldn't you? Who could say no to that? Some guy down the street wants to wear a dress? Okay, fine. Have a party. It doesn't affect you. You don't have to wear a dress. So go ahead. Live and let live. But it turns out that's never actually the deal. The guy down the street wears his dress, but after a while, that's not enough for him. He's still angry. And for some reason, he's angry with you. And that doesn't make sense because you're the person who had no problem with him wearing a dress in the first place. What did you do wrong? Well, the problem is you're not wearing a dress, and neither are your kids. Your normal person clothes, the ones you've always worn, are suddenly immoral. You've got to change immediately. What? Whoa, wait a second, you say. That's not what we agreed to. You do your thing and I'll do mine. Remember? They don't remember, they don't care. That's not how it works. You don't get to do your thing anymore. The dress guy's in charge now. Everybody's got to do his thing, the dress thing, or face punishment. That's how it goes. Be tolerant becomes show some respect, which evolves very quickly into bow down before us and lick our feet or else we'll hurt you. That's the final stage. That's where we are now. For example, a Democratic lawmaker in Virginia called Elizabeth Guzman is introducing a bill that will charge parents with a felony, strip them of their employment, and imprison them if they don't wholeheartedly endorse their minor children's sex changes. So your 12-year-old daughter says she wants a mastectomy. If you object to that in any way, if you raise questions, Elizabeth Guzman will send you to jail. For real. Here's a local news report.
Her bill would expand the state's definition of child abuse and neglect to include parents who do not affirm their child's gender identity or sexual orientation.
There's an investigation also in place that is not only, from a social worker, but there's also a police investigation before we make the decision that there's going to be a CPS charge.
What could the penalties be if, the investigation concludes and it's concluded that a parent is not affirming of their LGBTQ child? What could the consequences be?
Well, we first have to have an investigation. It could be a felony, it could be a misdemeanor, but we know that a CPS charge could harm, your employment, could harm your education.
So who is this Elizabeth Guzman? Well, Elizabeth Guzman came to this country not so long ago from Peru as a single mother. Now, rather than wait a while, maybe spend a few generations here before telling you how to raise your children in America, she's decided to get right to it and completely change child rearing in this country in a way that would never be tolerated for a second in the country from which she comes. Watch a practicing psychologist, an attending psychologist at Boston Children's Hospital, explain how early children can become trans.
So most of the patients that we have in the GEMS clinic actually know their gender, usually around the age of puberty, but a good portion of children do know as early as seemingly from the womb, and they will usually express their gender identity as very young children, some as soon as they can talk. They might say phrases such as I'm a girl, or I'm a boy, or I'm going to be a woman, or I'm going to be a mom. Kids know very, very early. So in the GEMS clinic we see a variety of young children all the way down to ages 2 and 3, and usually up to the ages of 9.
So that's Carrie McGregor. She's a psychologist. She works at Harvard. I wonder, how many children does Carrie McGregor have? Has she raised a lot of kids? Does she watch kids carefully? Does she know anything about kids? Because she's telling you, if your little kid says, maybe I'm the other sex, that means your kid is the other sex. Well, that's insane, because almost 100% of kids at one point or another, at a certain point in development, say things like, I think I'm a boy, I think I'm a girl. And you smile indulgently. Get back to me in 15 years. But no, says Carrie McGregor, in the womb you can know. So think about what they're telling you. They're telling you that the developing child in the womb is just a part of the mother. Therefore, you can abort that child at any time. It's like an appendectomy. But at the same time, that same cluster of cells, that fetus, can also be woke and ascribed to left liberal gender ideology, and you need to honor that.
You must pray, because the enemy is working in the financial systems, working in the mental capacity systems to put everything in place for that one who is going to appear.
As we tackle this crisis, our efforts cannot be a series of independent initiatives running in parallel. The scale and scope of the threat we face call for a global systems-level solution based on radically transforming our current fossil fuel-based economy to one that is genuinely renewable and sustainable. So, ladies and gentlemen, my plea today is for countries to come together to create the environment that enables every sector of industry to take the action required. We know this will take trillions, not billions of dollars. We also know that countries, many of whom are burdened by growing levels of debt, simply cannot afford to go green. Here we need a vast military-style campaign to marshal the strength of the global private sector.
With trillions at its disposal, far beyond global GDP, and with the greatest respect, beyond even the governments of the world's leaders.
You see, right now there is this push to save the world, the physical world, But your God who created the world for man already said that this world won't be destroyed the way man is trying to destroy it. So he came to save what was most valuable in the world, who he created the world for. He came to save you. He came to save humanity. While people are crying out about whose life matters most, your Lord, your God, your Creator, and your Father, the one who wants to be your Father, says that you matter most. You matter most. People have been given seats of power, and that power has gone to their heads because they are being seduced by the dragon, the beast.
What underpins a world order is always the financial system. And what we're seeing in the world today, I think, is we are on the brink of a dramatic change where we are about to, and I'll say this boldly, we're about to abandon the traditional system of money and accounting and introduce a new one. It means digital. It means having a almost perfect record of every single transaction that happens in the economy. But also, this new money will be sovereign in nature. Most people think that digital money is crypto and private, but what I see are superpowers introducing digital currency. The Chinese were the first. The US is on the brink, I think, of moving in the same direction. The Europeans have committed to that as well.
But they've told us, they meaning people in power, have told us what they want to do next. And the UK currently chairs the G7 group. Our Chancellor, who does our economy, called Chancellor of the Exchequer, his name's Rishi Sunak. He put out this video saying that what they want to do is bring in this thing called the central banking digital currency. They want to replace fiat paper money with digital money as a competitor to Bitcoin and crypto money, right? It's digital currency, but controlled centrally through the banks, Bank of England. So instead of having a bank account with whatever, HSBC or Bank of America, you'll have a bank account directly with, in the American context, with the Fed. In the UK, directly with the Bank of England. You have a personal bank account, and you're given digital money. They've said that this money that you will earn from work, instead of having paper money, you have this digital money. It's programmable so that you can't buy certain foods, or if you do something that your employer doesn't like, it's all in that article. You won't be able to spend your money. In other words, it's not money, they're vouchers. They're like food vouchers. And they can be programmed so that, like the Chinese social credit system, that if you try and use them on a certain thing, it won't work.
So it won't just be money in the sense of the way we have dollars or pounds today.
Yeah.
It'll be something that's controlled in terms of your ability to distribute it.
Which is why I'm calling it a voucher. It's a coupon. So you will have this central banking digital currency, and then what they're talking about in that article that we just pulled up is they'll say, right, and it explicitly uses the words, won't be used on something that the employer deems inappropriate or the state deems inappropriate.
Everything is coming to a culmination. Everything is coming to a culmination where you would have to choose between life and death. While people are sleeping and being entangled and seduced by things that will draw your attention away from what is really happening, this is what is occurring right now. Authority, who have been given this authority by Satan, first of all, and by God, to put into action Satan's final plan. We are living in a dispensation, and this dispensation is the Garden of Gethsemane phase.
Torben Søndergaard is the founder of the Last Reformation, a worldwide movement which seeks to return Christianity to the Book of Acts. He also began the Jesus Center in Denmark, which trained disciples from 30 nations to spread this message around the world. But Torben and his family fled Denmark this year like refugees fleeing a war zone, leaving with only what they could carry in 8 suitcases. The attacks against the ministry began in 2016, when the Jesus Center was investigated by 6 different Danish government agencies.
When I saw that, I was like, I'm finished now. No one will ever trust me again.
As guests on news shows pushed for a new law against Christians who allegedly inflicted mental violence on children through healings and deliverance.
And I just saw there that I was already guilty in the mind of the politician. I was already guilty in the mind of the people for something I had nothing to do with.
Torben was now a marked man, viewed as a dangerous person by many of his countrymen, worried that he would lose his children.
And we have people starting to call us, say that you have to leave Denmark now, because they're not going to stop. They want to continue getting you down. So we bought a ticket to America, and 2 days later we had packed 8 suitcases, and we left with our kids to America. And and it was very stressful. And now our center is closed. We had a 80,000 square feet center in Denmark is closed down. Our work is closed down. Everything is closed down. And I believe through all of this, I also have a message to people in America that we need to be prepared. We need to be alert. To say that they will never happen in America, that is a lie. I have said the same in Denmark. This is going to come to America.
Dear everyone out there, this is Torben Søndergaard, and I'm talking to you from a prison phone in Baker's County Detention Center, where I've now been detained for 98 days. And I, my lawyers, and my legal team still don't know why I'm here. Why was I detained? And why did they deny me coming out on a bond? There's so many crazy things in all of this. I am leader of the Christian ministry, the Last Reformation. I've served God for many years in over 40 nations where I've been preaching the gospel of Christ and making disciples. But I had never experienced anything like what I am experiencing now. Because of persecution in Denmark from the government, I came to the United States of America 3.5 years ago. January 26, 2019. After waiting for my asylum interview for over 3.5 years, I got a letter 3 months ago from Homeland Security that they would like to discuss my immigration status at a meeting in Orlando on June 30. I traveled from California, where I'm now a resident, to Orlando, Florida to attend the meeting. But to my big surprise, there was nothing about my asylum case. There is no criminal case against me at all. But I'm still here. I'm still locked up away from my family. And the life out there I love. And I still don't know why I'm here. And I'm still waiting for my asylum case to go to court, which can take many months. And why did they deny me coming out on a bond when I'm seeing so many other people in here go out on a bond? I've been locked up with people who came from prison, where they have been in prison for 25 years for murder. People who have done very bad things.
I don't know how it will play out in November, but what we know is that we will end up with many more unemployed, and particularly also people in the grey economy, which are not counted for, who lose their jobs. So we will see definitively a lot of anger already now, but probably increased by the end of the year, because this crisis will be with us until we really have found a remedy. So we have to prepare for a more angry world.
The future is built by us, by a powerful community as you here in this room. We have the means to improve the state of the world.
And the way they start is by tracking you. If you go deep in the weeds in what these people are saying at this place, they're openly scheming up some of the craziest plans you'll ever hear of, like tracking your carbon footprint.
We're developing, through technology, an ability for consumers to measure their own carbon footprint. What does that mean? That's, where are they traveling? How are they traveling? What are they eating? What are they consuming on the platform? So, individual carbon footprint tracker. Stay tuned.
You heard it. The one world government wants to keep tabs on what you eat and where you go. All because John Kerry's a little mad that your cheeseburger is wiping out part of the population.
1 Timothy, chapter 4, verses 1 through 3 declares, "Now the Spirit expressly says, that in the latter times some will abandon their faith in the truth, and place their faith in the lies of seducing spirits, and those taught the teachings of devils. Speaking lies in hypocrisy, having their consciences damaged beyond repair. Forbidding people to marry, and commanding people to abstain from eating meats, which God created to be received with thanksgiving for those who believe and know the truth."
People forget, greenhouse gases are pollution. It's a crisis made by human beings.
Maybe they should take their own advice before jetting off across the world on those private jets, emitting all that carbon.
This would be a government, a world government, where you don't get to vote on anybody. This is everybody's worst nightmare.
Andrew, the White House is issuing the government's first comprehensive framework on digital assets. It says the goal here is to mitigate the downside risk of a volatile industry and harness the benefits where proven. Now, the Treasury Department, Commerce, the DOJ, and the White House all contributed to this effort. NEC Director Brian Deese told reporters, quote, "Without proper oversight, cryptocurrencies risk harming everyday Americans, financial stability, and our national security." Among the recommendations, the Fed should keep exploring a central bank digital currency, which the White House said could offer significant benefits. On climate, the Department of Energy and the EPA will consider tracking the environmental impact of crypto and developing performance standards. There was also a big focus on illicit finance. The White House is weighing whether to ask Congress to amend the Bank Secrecy Act and other anti-money laundering laws to specifically reference digital assets, and Treasury will issue risk assessments of DeFi and NFTs in 2023. So this is the follow-up to the government-wide executive order that the White House had released back in March. The crypto industry worked closely with the administration back then. We'll see how it responds to what feels like a more skeptical tone today. Guys, you can think of today's release as the blueprint for regulation down the road. And the White House is making it clear that regulation is coming.
Listen, I've been warning you over and over, and now the Fed's saying the quiet part out loud. They want a digital currency. Ladies and gentlemen, it is the biggest surveillance tool you will ever see in human history. They're now saying the quiet part out loud about the creation of a central bank digital currency. Take a listen.
So it would not be anonymous. It would not be an anonymous bearer instrument. We would be looking to balance privacy protection with identity verification, which has to be done, of course, in today's traditional banking system.
You just heard him say it. You don't have to listen to me. Joining me now is cryptocurrency expert and the author of Undressing Bitcoin, Leah Halper. Leah, thanks so much for joining us. You know, you've been sounding the alarm about these central bank digital currencies for a while. Me as well. It's a big concern. This is the ultimate surveillance tool, isn't it?
Absolutely, and anonymity isn't even the worst of our problems. The worst of our problems is the fact that it's going to be programmable. Because it is digital, it means the money can be programmed to be spent in any way in which the central bank or the government decides. So one of my particular concerns is the World Economic Forum, because they're talking about implementing a carbon allowance. Now, this means each individual will be given a certain amount of, whether it's credit or whatever it is, carbon that they are allowed to emit. And how do they implement that? Through a central bank digital currency. money. So if I buy too many plane tickets, or if I buy too much meat, because those things are all supposedly very bad for the environment, my money when I go to fill up my car could then be declined. So now they're literally controlling what we can and can't do with our money. It's also important to realize that the money can expire. So during times of economic uncertainty, central banks love to print lots and lots of money, which causes inflation. But we could get to a point where they say, instead of printing money, guys, you have to spend at least 10% of your savings in the next 3 months. If you don't spend that money in the next 3 months, then that money is going to expire. And if you can't save money, well, then you can't build long-lasting generational wealth. You're always going to be a slave to the system. And, I don't think people really understand the severity of this. Money is literally the energy which fuels your life. If you don't have freedom of money, you don't have freedom of anything. Dan, I know you talk about the Second Amendment. If they don't need to necessarily get rid of the Second Amendment, but they can just say they can program your money so that you can't actually go and buy a gun. So again, it really is the most tyrannical form of surveillance we will ever see. When they control the money, they control the world.